Hi, it's Laura with Following the Paper Trail, and it's day 9 of the 12 projects of Christmas. There's only 3 days left. Unless, of course, I add in some bonus days. But that's not guaranteed yet. What I want to show you today is we are going to be making these little boxes. And I'll open it up and show you what's inside. I'm calling this a little box of thoughts. And where this came from is 2 weeks ago, we had that wind bomb cyclone thing go through the Seattle area. And I posted a picture from back in late December 2011 when we had a wind event that knocked our power out. And I was making projects for Tim Holt's booth at CHA, Creativation. I'm not sure what they're calling it right now, if they're even holding them right now, but the big trade show for the paper crafting industry. And with the power out, I was making my projects like this one, which was a vintage camera via headlamp and camping lantern because they had to get done. And so I just had to get them done. I would wrap myself in blankets and just keep working, and it was crazy. But as I said, one of the projects I made was this vintage camera. And no, we're not making this. I have videos of the entire process of making this. There's a tutorial, all of that good stuff. And it's really fun. It's in the bellows of the camera. Were some little pictures. Tim at that time didn't have his little paper doll stuff out yet. This was just something that was on this papers. And when I would make projects for designers like Tim, I would always make it out of as much of just the like Tim's products as I could. So I didn't add a lot of other things in to create this. But back to what we're doing today is in the back of this project. Undo these little closures up at the top. In the back of this project, there's this cute little box. And let me set this off to the side, because that's what we're going to be working on, is this cute little box. When I posted the pictures on my Instagram, and you can go back and see them, they're from like 2 weeks ago. And the very last picture in that sequence was this little box with it opened, and one of the little folders that it was inside, and it clearly says thoughts. And I love that because I go, oh, it's a little box of thoughts. And the light bulb went off. So we're going to do that today, is make our little box of thoughts. Now this one had little folders inside with these little metal tabs that Tim used to have in his stuff. And they all have a different thing on, like life. And I still have some of these metal tabs. You may have some of them in your stash. There's other little tabs, and there's dies and all that sort of thing in order to make your own tabs. There's 1,000,002 different ways of doing tabs. And when I eventually am making more stuff to go inside of this, I'll probably go through all sorts of different ways I've made tabs over the years. So, but we're going to make these little box of thoughts. But I also have one other thought that I want to talk about because it just totally hit home with me yesterday. As everybody knows, the 2-year-long Eras tour of Taylor Swift had just ended this past weekend. If you're watching this somewhere in the future, this is, where we are right now in this moment in time. But her Eras tour just ended. Now, my daughter and I have been to her concerts in the past, a couple of them, but we were never able to be lucky enough to get tickets for this one. And it's something I wish we could have. But regardless, yesterday I read something that she had said about revisiting all these different eras of her life. She said, revisiting my past has made me fall in love with it again. And that really struck me because one of the things I know I've been doing on this 12 days, but it's also something that I've been doing for the last several years is revisiting my past creative life. You know, I've gone back and it's been on, I've posted over the past several years on my Instagram and other such things of, I went back as far as high school with some of the characters that I drew and painted on t-shirts. Revisited my early days of quilting. I revisited, excuse me, jewelry making and some of my early mixed media stuff, printmaking, drawing, painting, you know, all the different sorts of artistic media and endeavors that I have done over the years. And I think in my own mind, I was trying to re-find a spark after I went in 2018, 2019, when I went through this complete and total creative burnout to where I would sit and cry because it was like I wanted to work and I couldn't. My brain just would not let me. And I kept trying to push it, which was the worst thing I could do. I'm much kinder to myself. I'm much gentler. And once I backed off of the pressure I put on myself, trying to please everybody and trying to just churn out so much stuff for all those years, my way of digging my way out of that black hole was to just revisit my past eras, I guess you could call it. And I discovered something about myself is not so much that I went back and revisited some of those to try to recapture. It was more going back, revisiting it and remembering, and then taking what those memories were and turning them into inspiration for new things. And that's really where I am at today. So while in this 12 days, I've been looking back at some old projects, but I've been using those old projects as inspiration to move myself forward and to embrace and love that path, that journey that I have been on all of these years, but embracing all of that as creative spark and inspiration rather than just, I was never going back to relive, but rather to remember so I could use that as inspiration to move forward, if that makes any sense. But anyway, I'm getting a little too deep and philosophical. But what I've done here is I have taken this little box that I made back in 2011, and it was just out of regular, it was Tim's scrapbook paper, so it was double-sided, and I just made this little box. And well, haven't changed it other than make it a little bit taller because I just think it's just a sweet and simple little box that you can put, whether it's little folders or in the case of this one, I put in what we worked on yesterday. I haven't worked on this further, but these little booklets, these little matchbook style booklets. You could do some just little tags with tabs on them. You could add pretty much anything you wanted to into this little box, and it becomes a box of thoughts. You could put little thoughts or little quotes or whatever you want onto your little booklets. There's pretty much anything that you could do on that. So it becomes your own personal box of thoughts. Now, on here, I could, like I did on this one, I could put little brads that look like little nail heads, or I can leave it plain. I can paint on this. I can do whatever I want onto this little box. What I did on this one is I made the little loop, pin and loop closure, or whatever it's called, where it just has the two pieces and then a string that wraps around it. With this one, these were made out of cardstock with a little brad on it. With these, I had these old, I think I bought them new, but obviously they're They're tarnished and such little brass buttons. They're probably from 30 years ago. Today's actually my husband's 65th birthday, and I still am in shock that I turned 65 in 3 months myself. Wait a minute. I feel like maybe I should be maybe 45. So it's this weird time warp as you get to this age that you didn't picture yourself feeling this young when you were this age. It's really strange. Anyway, I'm very much philosophical today, I guess. But anyway, so making this little box that it wraps from the back around to the front. Now I did this so that it fit better on just 8.5 by 11, 8 by 10. I guess it needs to be 8.5 paper, so that it was easy to use whether you're using digital papers or you're using cardstock, printed cardstock, or you're using watercolor paper or whatever. But I kept the sizes small because not as many pieces of paper or cardstock come in a 15-inch length, which is if you did it all out of one piece. But you can make your box be any size you want. So let me just show you what the pieces look like. Now, I don't have these dimensions all written down. Probably should if people comment enough in the comments. And while you're commenting, also like and subscribe. I keep forgetting that part of what I'm supposed to do. My son keeps saying, Mom, you're supposed to tell him to like and subscribe. So anyway, so I use this out of a hanging file folder because I love this kind of vintagey, foresty green color. But as I said, I will talk to you about dimensions. I don't have them written down, but I could put together a PDF sheet that you could download off my website if there's enough people interested in getting the dimensions versus me just telling you. So the front, let's go like that. The front, back can be whatever size you want. Now, with this one, it was 4x4 because it fit in the back of the camera. This one, I wanted it a little bit taller, so I went with 4 wide by 5.5. So this is the back, and this piece is going to be the front. So the front and the back are both 4 by 5.5, or whatever dimension you want it. Now, I have my sides 1.5 inches deep. So this is 1.5 inches deep. So these are the sides. This is the top, which is this piece right here. And this is the bottom, which is this piece right here. This is the front. This is also the bottom. So the bottom is going to have a double layer on it. Gives it a little bit more stability. Now the pieces that wrap on the outside to the front are these guys. And these are 3/4 inch wide. Now on this piece, I have 1/2 inch tabs on the bottom of the base so that when this all folds up and this guy comes up like so, those attach to the sides on the inside of the bottom. So we have from the top, we have this flap, and that's 1 inch. So 1 inch, 1.5, this is 5.5, and 1.5. Going across this way, I have a 3/4 inch tab, 1.5 for the side, 4 inches for the width, 1.5, which is the depth, and 3/4 inch. On this piece, I have it 5.5 and 1.5, and these are each 1/2, 4 inches, and 1/2. So this is going to attach, actually this is going to attach on top of this one like so that these guys can wrap up and attach to these guys. So I already have some strong adhesive. You can use adhesive, you can use glue, depending on your personal preference. So I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to flip this over and line that up just to the edge of the fold. Now at each of these joints, I have scored that on my scoreboard or if you have another method of scoring, but you do want to go ahead and score it so that it is nice crisp folds. So that's attached. So now we have a double thickness on the bottom just to give it a little bit more oomph. So then these little tabs here on each side are going to fold up, and these sides are going to fold up. Get it to where it's in the light. So that's going to line up, so it lines right up with that edge. And this guy lines right up with that edge. So that forms my bottom and my sides. And this is going to fold inside of those tabs, like so, and like so. So I already have the tape on these. So line that up so it folds over. Reach inside and stick that down, and then do the same thing on this other side. And we get some extra red hair in there. So attach those all down. So then my top folds over, and then I can apply like I did on this one with a button, or I can punch out of some heavier paper, cardstock, etc., and put a brad in it. So then you just take some little cord and it just wraps around. So either way, with the buttons, I punched little holes with a piercing tool so that then I could tie those on. And I just used some wax cord that I stitched them on with. And that gives a closure. I probably, the tongue doesn't want to work today, will add some brads in there to look like nail heads. You could also stitch this if you wanted to just punch it and, do some stitching, that sort of thing. So, but that's how quick and easy this is to make your own little box of thoughts or dreams or whatever little bits. You could also just hold a little journal inside. So you can make a little journal that just fits right down inside of there. So it doesn't have to be multiple pieces the way it is in this one. You can make one single one, and you have 1.5 inches depth. So, and I recommend not going much deeper than 1.5 inches. You can go, 1 inch if you wanted to, but 1.5 inches just seems to be structurally the right depth. But you could make it taller and wider to fit whatever. So if you had a specific journal that you wanted to put in there, you could, adjust the width and the height of this to fit whatever you wanted to put into it. But these guys just fit in there, just nifty. And those, I did show how to do those on yesterday's, on day 7. So you can go back and watch those. But those just, well, they can also slip inside this one. Boom, just like that. Put a closure on it. You could do all sorts of embellishment on the outside. Like I said, you could paint it, use markers, whatever you wanted to do on the outside to embellish your box. You can embellish your box actually even before you cut it out. So anyway, that's my little box of thoughts. It's funny how these little things were clear when I put them on all those years ago. I mean, it's almost 13 years now, but how they've yellowed. And I think about it as I have, some new packages of these, and these things were yellowed, and I went, ew. But now that I think about it, that's what these kinds of things do. Like this one, this is Story. It's got a little air bubble under there too, so it makes it even more realistically looking like, some of these are really, like here, this Memories one also has that same sort of thing, if I catch it in the glare just right. But that yellowing is what those kind of things do. So I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to dig those out. And I kind of like the idea of the yellowed ones now. So anyway, here's quick and easy little box. This could also work, since it's the holidays, work to put you put gift card in here, or you could put a small gift in there. So you can make a gift box too. It doesn't have to be just for your paper crafts. But anyway, so I hope you enjoy, and I hope you make your own, very own box of thoughts. Thanks a bunch.